No, just, how do you make it go?
Push the start button.
Come on, legend.
Uncharted 4: A Thief's End is the true final chapter for Nathan Drake, and I mean the game version, not the films, although Nathan Fillion would be a perfect Nathan Drake.
Fellas.
On seeing the big screen. But anyway, back to the point. In this review, I decided to mix it all in chronological order, meaning I'm gonna swap some scenes around to the time order it happens in, so let's get going. Also, be on the lookout for Robin Atkinson. The story begins with a young Nathan Drake, voiced by Britton Dalton, and I honestly think he doesn't do a good job. With Billy Younger he had some quippy dialogue, and he sounded like if he was a young Nathan Drake. This one just sounds a bit boring. I guess generic, but at least it's only the flashbacks. But speaking of, it does show how he was Catholic. Morrow mentioned it in the last game, but this time, we actually get to see it, so you go around the building getting outside and meeting Sam Drake.
Hello, brother.
Yes, he had a brother, and is voiced by Chase Austin. Do you remember how I mentioned that person taught Nate how to use the rope? In my Uncharted 2 Among Thieves review, that was his brother, so they escape the orphanage. Then Sam shows Nathan Drake his bike. Nate wants to go with him to retrieve their mother's book, Cassandra Morgan. Right now they take their mother's name, so their names are Nathan and Sam Morgan. Wonder who's the father. And we go to the next chapter.
Wait a goddamn minute.
Wait, next part of the story. Basically it's in chapter 16, so next time even. Okay, that'll do. When we get there, it's a house full of items. There isn't a lot to say about it, except for what happens when we do find the book. An old lady finds you named Evelyn, who, if I'm right, is dying of lung cancer, voiced by Merle Dandrigal. I kinda forgot to get the clip for it, but she called the cops on us, for obvious reasons. But Sam explains it was for their mother's book, with Evelyn letting the gun down, understanding it was her boys. So they talk about Sir Francis Drake, with her mentioning how he never had heirs as we all know, but this is how they get the name. Evelyn also explaining Captain Avery's treasure, and how their mother never got to find it, so when the police arrives, she dies of a disease. Which I think that's why Nathan Drake never smokes, and always says how bad it is to Sully.
Jesus, you stink.
Yeah, not half as bad as that cigar.
So, after all your bitching about the cigar, now it comes in handy, huh?
So when they escape, they changed their names to the Drakes, with that being the end of the flashbacks. Oh wait, one more. This flashback begins with Nathan Drake in prison, beating up someone. This is how they teach you to fight. It's a lot like the last game, with square being attack, and now with triangle you press it when you're in a lock, and you break out of it. So we beat him, I'm pretty sure, and we get to our cell.
Oh, no, it's not that bad. Look, I have my own bucket.
With one of the guards helping us out, by the name Vargas, voiced by Hemke Madera. He takes us to our old building, where they're said to be parts of a clue to Henry Avery's treasure, but Vargas wants in.
I want in.
Since Rafe didn't pay enough for his troubles, I'll explain who he is in a sec. We start the climb up to the tower, with us using the ropes along the way. You could back up the orphanage, but I feel like it's more important here. Now here's an example in Scotland. To use the rope, press L1 on a swinging object. To jump off, it's the X button. The left stick controls the swings. And finally you could use guns with it. It's hard to pull up, but it looks pretty cool. So we make it up and find this puzzle. Now the puzzle represents the sun and the moon. The puzzle is solved by finding the right Roman numerals, by combining both sun and moon with 10 and 2. So Nate finds a cross, but when he heads back to Vargas, he pretends he didn't find anything. So Nate asks if he could find any locations of another building. As they head back to the prison, we meet up with Sam, who is voiced by Troy Baker, and I have to admit, I think that's perfect casting, making both Nolan North and Troy Baker brothers. I often refer to them as the Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman of all video games. They were in Last of Us together, and I'll talk about that in the future. But now they're brothers, although I do think that he could have voiced his younger counterpart. Not saying Chase Austin does a bad job, actually he was really accurate, but Troy Baker can basically voice any man. But back to where we were, we meet with him and Rafe, with Warren Cole as the voice, which, surprisingly, he was the guy who played Gallagher in the first Avengers movie.
That man is playing Gallagher. Thought we wouldn't notice, but we did.
They meet up at a discreet location, and slowly figure out that the cross was leading them to Scotland. But before they could leave, the guy we beat up, yeah, he wants some payback, so we fight. I also like how Sam helps you out, and slams the enemy with you, but Vargas got us and
that's no mine.
So we had a word, and we came to an agreement with sharing the treasure, 25% each.
Any of you ever crossed me?
Never mind, so we run, and all three almost made it out. It's just, Sam got shot, and falls. The scene, I'd say, is very emotional. If only they didn't use the opening the game with another scene with him in it, but it's still emotional. Not Sarah Miller's levels of emotion, but one they really wanted to make you feel, and it kinda got me. Not tearing up, but more I thought it was emotional. Something this series isn't known for, but I'm a sucker for siblings growing stories, especially when I have a figure closest to me that is a brother, so Nathan Drake runs with a recap on the opening starting, showing all the events of all three games, to quickly catch you up, before getting to the present. This chapter is set in present day, 15 years before that event, and it shows how Nathan Drake has a job, and work friends, one of which being Jameson, voiced by Brandon Scott. So under the sea, we pick up a truck full of copper, and help bring it all up, and its kind is a reminder of how we first meet him, since he was diving in the first game, for the coffin of his unblood relative, Sir Francis Drake. So when he gets up, they get out the copper and Jameson want Nate to take a job, with Nate hesitant, because they don't have the permits, so we go back home, in chapter what's meant to be 4 but 5 now. We start in Nathan Drake's room, the loft, with some fun callbacks to his past adventures. I know I also mention how I hope they reference Tenzin in some way, with a rope, but I like this. So we see all of the items, and even play with a toy gun, with shooting all the creatures we faced in the games, even Lazarevic. So we head down for dinner, but before that, I like how they show wedding pictures, if you look around. Sadly not for Indiana Jones, but let's forget that.
I just want you to know, I hate your guts.
So we make it down, with Elena telling us a day, with Nate looking at a portrait, thinking about adventure, so Elena stabs us with a fork, which made me think of an idea. 4 forks. I can only say fork 4 times in reviews, but back to topic. When we wasn't paying attention, we are introduced to this, so you can choose what to say, but there's only 4 of them, if I'm right. 2 in this chapter and 2 in a boss fight. Now when Telltale Games does it, it works. Because it's focus on character choice. I mean when you start a chapter, they do say, it adapts by choices you make. So she says, she's gonna clean up, but we play her for it, with us playing a level in Crash Bandicoot, an awesome reference to the Bandicoot who yelled at Nintendo, and it's very hard let me say, but I do like Nate's comments.
Okay, run away from the boulder.
Why is the boulder chasing me? I did nothing to this boulder. What is that thing, a fox?
A bandicoot.
Looks like a fox. Looks like a fox in jeans. Why is a fox smashing crates? By the way, foxes can't do this.
It's a bandicoot.
That doesn't look anything like a bandicoot. What does the fruit do?
100 gives you an extra life.
100? Who's got time to pick 100 pieces of fruit?
So we lose. I'm not joking. You're not meant to win in this version. And we cut away to another scene with Elena asking,
Hey, are you happy?
So the next day, we meet Sam, and we head out to talk to him, and we choose our adventure from the past 3 games, to tell him the story first. So basically what's your favorite game out of the 3?
You tell me you stumble upon yet another archaeological gold mine and somehow you manage to walk away with nothing.
Well, we technically did in the first game. Sully stole a bunch of gold, and barely a small amount in the 3rd one. So Sam explains how he got out. He begins the story by telling someone about Avery's treasure, and that someone being Alcazar, with the voice of this person being Robin Atkin.
Who are you?
Where's my 2 nickels? So Alcazar helps Sam break out in this story because they had to earn it. Clearly prison can have me when it earns me. And this is practically the first time you can ever get to properly play as a different Uncharted character. Elena was a bit but not proper, and the skins in the Nathan Drake trilogy doesn't count. So when we make it out, Alcazar wants Sam to find him the treasure, but Sam says he had to find his brother, so he does. And he wants him in, but Nate is telling him he's retired.
Besides, there are plenty of other guys that are much more equipped. Like who? Charlie Cutter.
I'm sorry, Charles Cutter. Last time I checked he broke his leg. I'd say Chloe, or, of course, Sully, are people you go to for this thing. Not Charles, but he lies to Elena about taking Jameson's job, saying he has the permits. So Sam found out how they're holding another cross in an auction house, so they go there with Sully being there too. This chapter we catch up a bit with Sam, and we use the rope again. We miss. So we make it in, and I'm thinking, after mentioning it, you can put on different clothes on characters with what they wear in the story, and you could have this. Change the background. It could be easier to see enemies, pixelated sound effects, or everything could look like Rainbow Road. Now every time Sully is iconic, I'm gonna put a crown on him, because he's a one-of-a-kind character.
Know what I love about partying with a bunch of crooks?
What's that?
Nobody cares if you're smoking indoors.
As I said, the plan is to turn off the lights and steal the cross. So Sully distracts both Rafe and Nadine Ross, who's voiced by Laura Bailey. I do say, Troy Baker voices every man, and Laura Bailey voices every woman. But anyway, as I was, Sam is gonna be waiting for Nate to turn off the power, and, well, you know Nate's job.
Oh shit!
I'm joking.
So when you're at the power room, you're trying to find something to get into the power. So Sully bids higher than Rafe to distract him as you turn off the power. So we do, and escape with the cross.
Okay, let's ruin this asshole's evening.
So we need to sneak past the guards in this next chapter. So here's something new when sneaking by them. They have a diamond on top of them, and the colors represent if they spot you. White is safe, but it'll grow yellow, meaning they're suspicious. Finally orange, to show they spotted you. Definitely way better than how they did it in Uncharted Drake's Fortune. So when we enter inside, Nadine comes in through the door, and we fight her, with her dodging most of the moves. And here's when they stop the choices in three-way talking, if you get what I'm saying.
Did you know all the artifacts here are stolen?
That belongs in a museum!
So we fall out a window and sneak some more. Now we can use a gun, so we can shoot them all. Another thing to point out is that you can hide in high grass to avoid gunfire, and I like how you can drag enemies in the grass, so you kill them without the others noticing. So we get back inside the building in the most Nathan Drake way, and Sully takes a car, and they escape with the cross.
I hope I don't go to hell for this.
Now, I'm not a big Christian, but 1. It's not a crucifix, so I'd imagine it's fine. 2. If worried, why not let Sully break it? I bet he wouldn't hesitate, but inside the thing was a date of his death, so that location in Scotland, from the old one, was in a graveyard. The old one said it was in a location that Rafe brought, and yet it was next door to him this whole time.
Fucking whoops.
But before leaving, Nate tells Elena the job will take longer than expected, so we get to Scotland in the next chapter. In this chapter, Nate and Sam check the area as Sully waits for us. Slowly Nadine's men surround the area. Now in this chapter, we slide down rocks, and as a heads up, you'll probably want to jump a lot on it. That's the best way to keep up. Now there was rocks to slide in that flashback in the prison, but you do it way more here, and we also get dynamite.
We gon' light it up like it's dynamite.
And I'll just say, it's really handy here, since you need to blow up some doors. Now speaking of blowing up items, you can't throw back grenades in this game. I really liked that in the past game, though I do understand, since Nate hasn't been doing this work for a while. But
Come on, you gotta admit this is cool.
So when we made it to the graveyard, we need to look for 3 things to find his grave: the date of death, Avery's symbol, and 2 swords pointing down. Once you do, you find a secret passage. When in, we then solve another puzzle, being to point 6 lights through a door, with the 3 figures being Jesus, Dismas, and Justus. You control 2 by moving a disc, and have to move it to the blue buttons, so you see through a window that shows you the next location. So we go to the location, which Rafe has been searching for years.
Hold it!
How hasn't he found it yet, if it's literally right under his feet the whole time?
What is stupid?
But anyway, we go towards that cave, where we jump to the next chapter.
There's a handle in here or something.
Give it a pull.
What?
Give it a pull.
No!
Give it a pull.
No.
Give it a pull.
No.
You wanna play the pissy little brother?
In this chapter we move some water. Groundbreaking stuff, I know, but basically match the 2 crosses and the crucifix around in the correct path with the water on top. And as we were traveling, I stumbled along this. One of the Firefly's pendants, but the names are a mix of both Neil Druckmann and Bruce Straley, the directors of this game. As we see a conversation between both Rafe and Nadine, so continuing on we get to a location with a bunch of coins and a golden cross, but it was a test to see how greedy are you, so they pick up a coin and then a light shines on Madagascar, so Nadine and her men finds us, when Sam tricks them with the cross showing the way.
What?
Well, technically, a crucifix refers to cross that... You know what?
So a bit of action around here and we make it back to Sully, as we show him the coin, and the coin shows 2 things. One was a volcano, as the other one I'll explain in the next chapter. Since it was a test, the coin shows them where to go next. Since Henry Avery was recruiting other pirates, I would say, it was surprising how there was so little of greedy pirates. Since if you pick up the cross, it would destroy the whole entire building. But as we were, they figure out it was a volcano in Kings Bay, and so they leave there. As we dock, Elena calls Nate again, and she shows concern for him. After getting ready, we're in
Madagascar!
and we can control a car. How you control it is easy. Press triangle to get out, and to get in, R2 goes forwards, with L2 being the brakes, and the reverse. There's also a hook you have. Press triangle to pick it up when you're looking at it on the outside, since it can get past some hard muddy areas. Sometimes you don't need it like here, when you just need to follow the rocks. Also, I like how it politely hooks itself all the way around. Good job, hook.
Again with the winch, Sully. Pretty handy, right?
I wasn't against getting the winch, I was against getting ripped off.
So we go through some eventful moments and keep finding Nadine's men around. So when you see them, you attack them.
Onward and upward.
Wait, what did you say?
Onward and upward. Onward and upward. Onward and upward.
Onward and upward.
So with some more traveling, we come across a bridge when we do all the hard work, and them 2 just watching, with us continuing Don't
panic! Don't panic!
I am very much...
When we enter, we see 12 tower locations that represented all the main pirates, and don't even ask me to remember them all. So the other side of the coin shows a scale, or an anchor. They needed to go to the tower with the right symbol. So Sam goes to the anchor, as Sully and Nate goes to the scales, and so they go to different sides of the city in Madagascar, and into the next chapter. In this chapter we start in a marketplace. You could check out stuff around the area, but what I like the most of is when buy an apple, and then pet the lemur. The lemur would just steal your apple. Poor Nathan Drake.
You know what? After this is over and done with, I'm gonna get a dog.
Gee, we come out of this in one piece, I'll buy you the damn dog.
Can I name it Victor?
Sure.
So when we enter, we have to ring bells with zodiac signs. First is Scorpio, second is Aquarius, the one after is Leo, with the final one being Taurus. With that done, make your way to the top. I like how we have to change the time to be able to make it to the next platform. On top, we ring a giant bell.
I'm gonna have to ring it myself.
Are you sure about that? I mean, it's not like you could shoot it maybe. Anyway, when Nate rings the giant one, it all falls down. Fun fact, remember that scene with Nathan Drake playing Crash Bandicoot? Activision did the same thing, with Coco playing this part of the falling bell. That's a cool callback for both. But under the building was a puzzle. This one you need to move the symbols around the right way. The first one is easy. First time playing I just spun them and opened the door. As the second time, I noticed the arrows that has to connect. In the next room, find little boxes on the painting. Then you'll be able to shuffle it around. Shuffle until the arrows meet. Then return to the drum. So after doing that another 2 times, the last time will be harder. Because 2 would be a mystery. One is another pirate, as the other one is Monkey Island. I have literally no idea about this game, but I did hear a lot of Easter eggs for a thief's end, and he was a big highlight. So that pirate was Guybrush, and is of course the monkey symbol. When you match them all up, it'll make a map. First Nate took a photo of it, then realized to scratch them out. Then Rafe calls. Not only did Rafe call, he also said that is tracking them and hacking the phones to get the photos. But I would ask this. 1. Why not keep it a secret about tracking them? 2. Same goes with the photos. But 3. I did remember back in chapter 9, Nadine Ross said this.
I didn't think he'd show up.
Or maybe you wanted to draw him out.
Why the hell would I do that?
Because you think you need him.
Which explains something in the future. For the past, if that makes sense. We break the phones but not after warning Sam. Now I'd be honest, I thought we may have seen his point of view through all of it, just because he was playable in one of the chapters. So we make it to him. Also, this is the scene they showed in E3, and they had problems with the controller, which for that reason, they made it into a trophy. If you stand still and do nothing for 30 seconds, the trophy is called stage fright. So we shoot out and drive to Sam with some unwanted attention. With having one of the coolest car chases I've ever seen in video gaming. So we get to Sam and fumble along the way. Then when we get out, we shoot the every living bell out of it. Forker. When we got back to our apartment we then get ready to go to the island.
Oh no.
It's a deep cutscene between the two, so when she leaves Sully follows her, and Nate carries on figuring it out.
You need a hand? Got it.
You wanna play the pissy little brother?
When we're on a boat to the island, for the next chapter. In this chapter, we are in a nice tropical island, but this island is full of clues and pirate stuff, like this ship underwater. We also do Marco Polo again.
Marco what?
Now in this ship, there's something that reminds me of Mushroomy, but that isn't important. So when we get on top of a tower, we see there's a bunch of arrows pointing to each other, so we follow them. Do like how Sam critique Nate's adventures.
How did you know to do that? Oh, there's one thing I've learned from you. Press everything.
So when we do we get inside the mountain. With that said, we keep going through the until I found this item again. I actually do want to see what the games are like in the future, but what we do find is this, rooms full of more pirate stuff, and this puzzle, when we move the balls in the lights, there's little places to rotate them, and some that are non-rotatable. So when you line the light up in the same place 3 times, one for 4 pirates, except Avery, since he'll be waiting for you outside. Now if I'm right, I think Aquaman took inspiration from this scene. Then Rafe and Nadine's men comes, so we ride it to the island. Now this was meant to be how they opened the game up, when you and Sam ride to a mysterious island, but I thought of taking it in time order. I know they did something like this before, and it worked well, but I thought how would it play out in a chronological order, so we crash. We start this chapter passed out, and we get up, trying to find Sam. Now you don't properly move, like you used to. For example, if you try and do the jump climb, you'll just lip. So when you climb, you slip down a hole. When you get knocked out again, I get knocked down, but I get up again. When you wake up, you can see a blinking light. It's Morse code for Sic Parvis Magna. So we make our way to Sam, with us getting a new climbable item. This item being a piton. When you're on a certain type of climbing area, you press square, and it'll stick you to parts of the mountain. So after that we fight some more enemies. So then we meet Sam again, and Nate wants to go, as Sam wants to stay.
You wanna play the pissy brother?
But we find more pirate stuff, and Nate is now ready to carry on. After walking for a bit, we find an entire city of where pirates used to live, all thanks to Sam and Nathan Drake. Their next move is to go to the giant building in the next chapter. The first part of this chapter, we check all over the pirate camp. You can also note something down. You could at other times, but it'll be more prominent here. When you leave we fight a little bit, and head into the building. This was a really short chapter. Actually it was kinda one of the shortest, and I mean by story narrative. But this chapter is a bit longer. Now we start by looking around this area, where they find some money in the room. So the money was here, and there were a ton on top of them. So we find a hidden chain and climb to the top, and into a new building. When we're on the top of the building, we find that city that was drawn on the ceiling, and head there, which I say, isn't it so obvious that it's in that mountain? I mean, you don't mind that much only for a cool shot. Now as you can tell the building gets destroyed.
Alright, up we go.
I'm really shocked the stairs are intact.
Hey. Don't jinx us.
And after, we fight Nadine Ross again. But there's two of them. But this time, we beat her.
And his name is John C.
But after we beat her, Rafe and Nadine's men come. And literally Sam was gonna shoot her. Not a I'll shoot her only to back down. He was gonna do it. So it starts the two being in a conflict. Now Nate isn't as bothered with the treasure, but he does want a cut to save Sam.
The guy who broke him out, Hector Alcazar, he owes him a lot of money.
Whoa, what the hell are you talking about, Nate? Hector Alcazar died in a shootout in Argentina like 6 months ago. Wait a goddamn minute.
You mean, so Alcazar isn't properly in the game, and they just made him to put Robin Atkin Downs in? Oh, and their betrayal. But the truth is Rafe freed Sam from the prison, thinking he could lead him to the treasure. But bringing Nathan Drake wasn't the plan. So Rafe attempts to kill Nate, as Sam blocks him. When Nate gets bumped and falls, in a short time Elena finds him. Now the flashback to the house is meant to be played then. So instead of me repeating myself, Nate tells Elena everything about Sam, with Nate telling them they don't need the money. So both Nate and Elena are at it again, in chapter 17. So Nate and Elena catch up, but Elena did asks this, what Rafe wanted with the treasure, since of course, it isn't the first time it happened to them. So we'll get back to that, but right now they fix a elevator. With riding it up, they get attacked. So they beat them. In a catch-up chapter, not a lot happens, but it is a slowdown. We break a bridge, and lose the vehicle. But as we carry on, remember what Elena asked in chapter 4, and if you played the game, the argument in chapter 11, it's apology for the argument, and shows how he missed the adventures of a lifetime. And when we get to a gate, we're in the next chapter. Chapter 18 we're at the locations of where all 12 pirates lived, and it's all flooded, with Henry Avery giving himself the biggest building. So we have to make it there. Now I only bring it up because, but this place reminds me of The Last of Us. Trust me, I'll get to that series after this. So we fight some more and one more thing. But it's easier to sneak in this part, because if you go to the water and dive, it's really easy to lose Nadine's men. With that said, we enter Avery's house.
Knock knock.
With him hosting a feast, but they are dead, the pirates, because their drinks were poisoned, except Avery and Tomb, so they could hog the treasure, but we'll get to that in a bit of time. So we find another room with where they took Sam, because of their muddy tracks, and inside we find a secret room, because Sam left his lighter on the floor, for us. So we head in, and into chapter 19. In this chapter, we're stuck in a cave, so they have exploding mummies, and a death floor. Even though I'd played through all the games already, I kinda forgot to follow the footprints on the floor. Duh. But they'll be explained soon. We carry on into the cave, and even more mummy bombs goes off. Trust me, I don't 100% know how to perfectly dodge them, so we find a little hint on how to not die from the traps. It shows 3 symbols, and each cross represents death. So, pay attention to the symbol's angle, and don't explode. so we almost get out when...
Help me swing this thing.
Okay, be honest, it does remind you of something from the Pirates of the Caribbean. So you cut down the rope and run, and Elena dies. I'm joking, she's fine, but we almost make it out and head into chapter 20. In this chapter, we find Sam escaping, and we have to make it down to him. This is like the last time you're gonna be using guns here, so just go all out, just as a heads up. So we make it to him, with us still holding back against the enemies, and separate again with Elena and Sam. We swimming through the water and getting out. Little bit more firepower until...
Oh no! Not you again!
And we're running from him. And I think it's really cool, but Naughty Dog knows how to make the stakes high, so with it stuck. Thanks to Sully. So we finally defeat him. Die! And meet up with all the gang. Sam thinks they could still make it to the treasure before Rafe does, because he knows a shortcut, and also he did set him in the direction of a trap. Now the treasure was moved to the mountain. Still think it's the most obvious place ever, but everyone refusing to go for it. And I have to say, Sam is quite a jerk to Nate, in a way, by using him. Sure, almost all thieves use each other, but Sam is family, and he lied to Nate about needing the money, and they all head to the plane. In chapter 21, the team slowly makes their way to the plane, until we're stuck with this in the way. The team comes up with Nate using the rope to pull them. Then they could get to the other side, but when Nate barely gets across and Sam doesn't, he sees it, as he could head for the treasure, so we push this heavy thing to get up, but the others can't follow, only we can, even though Nathan Drake have the rope. But this part is our last climb with Nathan Drake, and we even see the ship, where the gold is. So with our last climb to the ship, wait, is it what I think it is? A Wumpa fruit. It's about time we see a Crash Bandicoot collectible. So with that said, we climb down to the ship, and we eavesdrop on Rafe and Nadine, with her saying to leave the rest. I guess she thought, look at what we could buy with only a fracture of that money, with Rafe having none of it, with him taking it all, and her men leaving her. It'll play in the future, trust me. But I do have a question. Why? Why leave so much money? I know she says this.
We have millions in gold right here. I'd say that plus our lives is something.
But I'd imagine if you take it all, you could buy more powerful weapons for your men. But anyway, for story purposes, I get it. But for money reasons, let's say I can barely get it. Now I haven't talked too much about Rafe and his goals. The reason Rafe wants the treasure is because of pride, which it took me a bit of time to think, but it actually makes sense. Here's why. Nathan Drake, before he had a life with Elena, he always had a pride. Since the ring was a perfect object to represent that, and until the third game, when he loses it, because he didn't try and save Marlo because of the ring, but because he felt it unfair to let her go if he didn't try, and she was taunting him to prove his pride, and Sam is the representation of if he never changed, he has his own pride, and because he was reckless with it, well, you'll see in a sec. The reason Nate goes on the adventure was because of Sam's pride. Nate's pride was filled by Sir Francis Drake's adventures, except the second story, when he was part of a heist, then it became payback. And Sam's pride was from their mother, as Rafe is only for himself. For a hero, some of the best villains are the representation of the negative effect of what that hero stands for. But comparing to other villains, I say he's probably the best. For Nathan Drake's last adventure, here's why. Gabriel Roman was the series' first villain, and is more of a Sully-related villain. Of course, first game, and he wasn't going to be their Neo-Cortex, but Navarro was the main twist villain, in a way, and is more like Talbot, in a way, but I'll get back to him. Eddie Roger did have a history with him, but that was explained in a comic. But he worked as a side villain, and Harry Flynn filled the side villain's role in the second game, with Lazarevic being the main bad. He's definitely the strongest villain Nate faced, but not the most personal. Next is Marlowe, who was more of a Sully villain, in my eyes, than a Nathan Drake villain, but Talbot filled the role Navarro did in the first game, the twist villain you had to fight, but Nate grew to hate him the more the story continues. But Rafe was a villain who had worked with him in the past, wasn't overshadowed by another, and as a bonus, was the thing Nate used to be when he was hunting treasures. So I say he works way more than Talbot or Marlowe ever did. So let's get back to the point. Since it's not like Sam was trapped on the ship, right? Oh, fork. So Rafe and Nadine head to the ship, and into the last chapter we ever get to play as Nathan Drake in. We get on the ship, and Sam is trapped, but Rafe and Nadine comes in. Nadine takes Nate's gun, then Rafe's gun.
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
There were little hints on her betrayal throughout the story, so Nadine finds the bodies of both Avery and Toom. They fought over the treasure, so she leaves us. Then Rafe picks up a sword and started to strike. Now this part is when you dodge the strikes he swings by pressing triangle to dodge left and circle to dodge right, and he even talks about Nate's previous adventures.
Nathan Drake raced a madman and his entire army to the steppes of Shambhala. Nathan Drake found the lost city in the middle of the Rub al-Khali desert. Nathan Drake discovered the fable
El Goddamn Dorado.
In a part of the fight, you pick up a sword, and it's the same to dodge but block, but when his guard is down, strike with square. Now comparing this to the previous one, I say it was handled way better. Now I compare Talbot because he was meant to be Nate's final fight to end the series, but this one is a more personal fight, not as personal as one I'll talk about in the future, and I do mean that, but one that's way more than a simple, I'll kill you, so our sword breaks, and using the last move to defeat him, we give him what he wants, and we save Sam. Now I think, in my opinion, it should have ended with Sam's mistake costing him his life, but I do know it's meant to show Nate's intelligence on the situation. But you get my point, either was as good. I just think the emotional should have been used. So we leave and get to the plane, and leave the island. So we say goodbye to both Sam and Sully, as they are taking their own adventures. We head home, and we're back at Nate's job, where Jameson goes in retirement, and he gives us his JMI, and Sam slips something in Eleanor's pocket, some money, so they use it for their new job, and then we get back to this. We get onto a epilogue, where we play Crash Bandicoot again. Oh fork, almost had that new high score, so we play as Nate's and Eleanor's daughter, called Cassie Drake, played by Caitlin Dever. We play as her around the house, so she looks around, and we find out she truly does inherit her father. So we find a book from her grandmother, also Nate's mother, and find some stuff out about her parents, with them coming in, and they find out we were looking around, so they start telling everything. They also start with how Elena met Nate, and that was the game. What can I say? It's a proper fun, but no, this was a game that wanted to bring back the series, and unlike so many others, it succeeded, and it's no easy task, since the marketing can be easy, but when it comes out, it could build upon, or destroy that series, but it was done so well, so I'll give it a 10 out of 10.